Well, they may not be the people that you most enjoy talking with, but in the end, all they're trying to do is make a living. We'll be right back with some hilarious telemarketers talking about their new web series, The Call Room.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hello and welcome. Listen to that jam. You said this is your favorite song.
When I was 10 years old, this is the song I would play and repeat.
Awesome.
Over and
This
over.
is it.
This is it. It's one of the most simple songs ever.
I actually like it.
That's a very telling tidbit of that 10 years old, this was your favorite song.
10 years old. And still to this day, I listen to it about once or twice a day.
Troubling.
It's good though. It's got that nice smooth feeling.
I'm liking it. I actually like it.
Well, hey, these gentlemen are from the new web series, The Call Room, that just got released last week. It's hilarious. Follows around some telemarketers. Let's introduce yourselves. We have Jonathan Schwartz.
That's right. I'm Jonathan.
What's your socials? If you
Oh,
want
I'm
to
sorry.
follow
You can find me on Twitter at @SchwartzRetorts.
Here we go. Next name is Adam Carr.
Schwartz Retorts. Hi, I'm Adam Carr. I'm the creator of the Call Room series. You can find me at FunnyGuy1985 or at AdamCarr85.
Here we go. And
Instagram.
all the way at the end, because we did the tall bookends.
That's right.
The tall man, Craig Tovey.
Yes, I'm Craig Tovey. I'm the director of The Call Room, and you can find me everywhere at Craig Tovey.
There we go. Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We're talking about this series. For people who don't know, kind of talk about what you guys wanted to do with this series. Obviously, it follows around these 4 telemarketers trying to deal with their careers and their sadistic boss. Talk about what your goal was and what you kind of wanted to get across.
Sure, I think it was to kind of do the next generation of an Office series. I feel like the Office comedy is very cyclical. And from my own telemarketing experience, which Jonathan, he's so special to me. He was in the original Call Room where this all kind of went down. I found that no one had really done a show specifically about telemarketers. Sometimes they have it where it's an additional bonus part of the show, like that's what they do. But I really wanted to show like these people who call you, who you can't stand, who you swear at, who you demean on the phone. They really are just real people trying to pay their bills and get their stuff done.
In fact, in an episode of The Office, Michael did, was one episode where he was actually a telemarketer at night,
that's right.
like did
that's right. It was like second job.
Yeah.
Right. That's right.
And
Yeah, our office was like that, except there was just 4 of us originally. So Michael was in a big, sprawling office. But
This is an up-and-coming telemarketer
This was
company.
within the theater we fundraised for.
Yeah,
and it was very intimate.
it's loosely based on, I mean, actually not as loosely, but it's very strictly. I work at the Geffen Playhouse in Westwood, and I've actually worked there for 10 years. And originally, Gil Cates Sr., who was just the wonderful producing director, he unfortunately passed away. It'll be 5 years on Halloween.
God rest him.
He's such an incredible guy. Was head of the DGA, was head of the TFT at UCLA. He made the Geffen Playhouse, the Geffen. Just a wonderful, kind man. And when he passed on, they made his office a makeshift telemarketing office. It was a 18-month social experiment that completely bombed.
Oh, it bombed.
And it bombed.
Yeah.
And Jonathan was one of the original guys who, we shared this gigantic desk. It wasn't cubicles. That's why it looks the way it does in the show. And I began an ill-fated office romance with someone
Very ill-fated.
Very ill-fated.
and that's kind of where
In the
this
office of a recently passed away man.
yeah, so
That's
it's
lovely.
very fish out of water, and also too, families still coming by to see stuff and collect his personals, and we're trying to get
sad.
through the day. I know I'm making calls and writing letters, and I thought to complicate things more, I would begin an office romance that everyone, including Jonathan, said, this is a terrible idea. And I was like, no, I'm in love. This is it.
You were a good friend and gave him what he needed to hear, not what he wanted to hear.
Exactly right. And Adam, did you hear that? Because he doesn't give me credit for that.
True friends don't tell you what you want to hear.
That's right. I'm a true friend.
He knew. No, so yeah, and then she began another romance with our fellow coworker that I worked right across from at the desk. I was very upset with this, and then I even more upset because I found out Jonathan knew for a couple weeks and didn't say anything.
It was about the two of them.
So-
They need to hash that out. I'm
There
staying
was
out of
no
it.
bro code.
I can't do that.
Where was the true friend at that moment?
true
huh?
Yeah, that
So-
Well,
kind of lost a couple points.
And ironically, that's it's
I
very
did say
fitting.
to Adam, like, you shouldn't get your
said
heart
I
into
would
it.
stay
Like,
away.
yeah, I said stay away.
At which point I said, so next time, you get even more specifically if she's seeing someone else, just let me know. But
so there
it's,
were hints, just the breadcrumbs probably could have been a little more.
yeah, I needed to be
little
hit on
bigger.
the head.
Well,
And
there's just
it's-
four of us, so it was kind of obvious.
It was, but
Only
it is
an
it is
idiot
fitting
couldn't
that
see it.
it is fitting that our second episode drops today because it is entitled "The 10-Year Check," and the whole subject of it is that Adam is messing around with the office temp, and basically everyone finds out in a roundabout way that they're all involved with her as well. So this episode I think is very much the core of the original pilot that I wrote.
Very fitting.
About 3 years ago. So
I was gonna say,
It's
so
cool.
You wrote the pilot 3 years ago because the crowdsourcing that you guys tried to raise for this started actually 2 years ago is when it was launched. 2 years on September 15th. So just
you really
almost a
stalked
week
us.
ago.
You really stalked us.
I
didn't
did.
you?
That's social media and everything. Google is a powerful tool.
The Google machine.
So it launched 2 years ago. What was that process of actually, writing it, getting it actually to where it is today? I mean, that's 2 years. That's dedication.
Yeah. So what happened was, I'll kind of jump in here because this is kind of where I enter. So they'd known each other from working at the old call room, and Adam and I met in a class at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater taking improv together. He approached me and he was like, "Hey, you direct and you have a camera and stuff. I wrote this pilot about my experience. Yeah, about my experience telemarketing." And so. That's when I jumped in, and all of us, and I played with there's a character named Craig that was, I played in the original pilot. And then I realized that I can't direct and act at the same time yet.
To his credit, a lesser man would not have stepped
right.
down. He
Would've
said it's about
forced
the
it
show.
and-
It's about the show.
It's all about the quality of the show.
Right.
And so anyway, yeah. So after we shot that pilot, edited it, we took it around to some people, and we were like, you know what? Nobody's really biting right now. Maybe too close to The Office, having just finished up, or
Yes.
Parks and Rec. So people weren't really hungry at that point for it. And we said, you know what? Let's turn this into a web series. Let's write a bunch of episodes. Let's make it ourselves. And that's when we decided, well, we need some funding. So we launched the Kickstarter and set our goal, what we thought was pretty high, and achieved it. And we're like really excited for that.
And I think, Adam, you were telling me before that when you put that out there, that number, it's good to triple it or something. You said there's always...
Yeah, my joke is take whatever number you have and then triple it, because you're always going to, we raised the money. We were so grateful. We raised $26K.
Wow.
Which was awesome. And, I didn't have to sleep with any middle-aged women to achieve that goal.
At least not for the
just
show.
just
Right.
older women,
That
not
we
middle-aged?
Yeah, just middle-aged. And then we finished. We had the money. We started shooting, and we basically said we can either save some of this money aside for post, or we can figure out post when we're done and make sure that we put all the money into the episode so we can shoot and get everything done the way we want it done.
You only get one chance at a first impression.
You're hunting with one bullet, so you only have basically one shot to kind of prove everything. And
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people they rush the process. Either it looks like crap, or it sounds like crap, or they don't take the time.
It's written like crap. It's acted like crap.
Yeah, like
the food is crap on set.
the food, terrible.
The plot is crap.
Yeah.
They're crapping on screen.
So,
Sorry, just sticking in a theme.
you
Just keep
You
going.
special boy.
you really are. But yeah, so we basically we said we'd figure out post later. We were able to acquire another great producer, Chris Adams, who came on board for post. Our EP, who came on for Kickstarter, who is absolutely incredible, is Steven Shapiro, who's the CEO of Summit Business Management. Been someone I crossed paths with a couple different times. And basically, at one point, he had said, "Hey, he's like, if you ever are actually going to raise the money to do something, he's like, I think you're really funny. Let me know." And so finally, I came to him and I said, "Hey, need some money." So and he did, and came on board as an EP, and it was really incredible. So to raise the funds, and then it felt like at each point where we were gonna get stopped by either the economics of the situation or just moving forward, someone else would come on board. And it was that to me was what was really cool, that people could see what we were doing and were so inspired by it that they said, "You know what, I really want to give you a shot."
Is it crazy to look now, 24 or 36 months later, at it's finally out? You're finally, releasing these, and you see it actually out there, and it's getting views and everything. Is that surreal to think, or is it just satisfying and gratifying?
Well, it's funny because we had, when we finished it, we had a big screening at the Sony Studios lot. So, but that was when was that?
April.
That was April. So that to me, and we packed the place. We had maybe 100 people. It was standing room only. It was a pretty great night, and we had a lot of great feedback. So that to me felt like the big release.
Yeah.
And so now that it's online for the general public, I'm like, oh, okay. Like it doesn't feel actually quite as a big of a release.
Yeah, the big ceremony was that release. Yeah, like we said, we screened on the Sony lot, and it was a 99-seat theater, and we had like 170 people. It was people were sitting in the aisles, standing in the the overflow into the foyer. Like,
it was great. And Craig and I were talking about this last night. The editor on the show that we got to edit was pretty amazing. He worked on Stranger Things.
Yeah.
He was doing that show. You guys actually saw.
Yeah, we were saying this is what kind of cost us. Post kind of cost us about 10 months, which if we had more money at the time or could do whatever, we sat down with this incredible editor, Kevin Ross, who had done like Shameless. He had edited on The Truman Show.
Californication, The Riches, Speed.
All this
Speed.
cool. He literally cut his teeth working on Speed when that came out originally, and we sat down with him. And a lot of these editors, they make 10 to 15K a week. I mean, they make it's insane.
It's ridiculous.
So we sat down, and he was like, "What do you guys have?" I said, $2,500, and he said, "Yeah, you know what? I haven't worked on a passion project in a while. It's really cool."
So the thing is we got like a top-notch editor, but we had to be fit in between other projects, and one of those projects was
Stranger
Halt and
Things.
Catch Fire, Unforgettable, Stranger Things, and the last.
I want to pitch the show. It's like, you like Stranger Things? Then watch this Office comedy from the same editor that has nothing to do with Stranger Things.
We added we added light bulbs in the show, and
There's a Demogorgon. I mean a Bob.
Simon is a Demogorgon.
That's true. Yeah.
But the last when we did the final cuts, we were in the same studios, and we didn't know at the time, but there were Stranger Things. Like they all had their name placards on the thing and that font and stuff. So we kind of overlapped there, and also like the bartender Darren Cooper had a small part that got cut out of Stranger Things.
Yes, he had scenes with Matthew Modine. Which also, ironically, too, in a roundabout way, Matthew Modine and David Harbour, who plays the sheriff in the show, both of them have done shows at the Geffen. So it's like a roundabout.
Gosh, it's all so connected.
It's 7 degrees of separation.
Right. 7 degrees of Geffen connection. That's what it is. Probably going to get a call.
No, but I'll answer, to go back to answer your original question, it is still very exciting to see it out and see people watching it and get a response and seeing we're launching it on Facebook and VidMe and YouTube, and especially on Facebook, getting 60 or 70 likes from our friends and 27 shares, and just straight out of the gate, and that's been excited to finally be able to see people watching it, and reacting to it. It's been really good.
Absolutely. Talking about the comedy, before you even said that, I totally thought this is totally like an Office type feel, type comedy. Is that kind of you said that's the feel that you were going for? The jokes, kind of people who are not necessarily thrilled about their jobs. It's they don't live to work, they work to live type of feel.
Right.
Yeah, it's very much an Arrested Development type feel. And the joke I made is I went to UCLA right across the street, one of the greatest public universities in the country and in the world, and when I graduated in 2008, the housing market had collapsed. There was a huge recession. All my friends who had gone to school for business or, different strategic analysis, they were all here doing extra work or acting. And they said the climate right now is so terrible, I might as well act or do whatever. And the fact that these group of people, they're well educated, they just can't, you had lawyers submitting for applications at Starbucks. It was one of those crazy things where didn't matter how educated you were or where you came from, what your job was.
A job is a job.
You need a job. You have to pay your bills. And so I think that that's something cool to identify with most people.
Where did you find the rest of the cast? Because, Alexa Rosa, Sean Jones, how did everyone kind of come in?
Our dear Alexa Rose. She was a friend of a friend. I'd met her through...
it's all Geffen connections.
It's a lot of Geffen connections.
It's all people that have worked at the Geffen or at the call room and or their friends. Mm-hmm. So we kind of cast from who we had on hand, because we couldn't pay people hardly anything to get the most out of production, locations and all that kind of stuff. So we just got really hungry but talented actors who were around, and a lot of that was kind of getting who could be there the day of.
And me, right?
Hungry,
Well,
and talented, hungry and talented.
I demanded
and then
payment, first class payment.
No, he was really low hanging fruit. Like, he was hanging out anyway.
Well, all the music too.
you did the music, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Most of it, yes. I mean, you had sound design,
There's
but yeah,
some soundtrack, stuff. But.
I played mandolin. So yeah, I did the original score, the title sequence. That was a lot of fun. I never really scored a show.
I was gonna say first one that you've ever done.
First one, I had scored a little short with a buddy of mine that he did most of it on his guitar, and I did like a little bit. So that was my first like getting my feet wet. But this was like the first one fully on me, and I used a lot of. I play in a band. We have some like original instrumental music that we used for the show, so it was cool. It's cool to add some mandolin feel to it.
Yeah, when Adam and I were kind of like talking about what kind of music, what's the tone of this show, like he's like, hey, we got to use Jonathan, and I wasn't before, and I'm still not now like a crazy bluegrass mandolin fan, but we were like, we wanted to have something unique, and we were kind of borrowing from like Curb Your Enthusiasm and Seinfeld.
And actually, speaking of The Office, Ed Helms played the banjo, so this is my
yes.
But we wanted to have that unique kind of library of sounds and transitions, and we're like, well, we can go get that from some kind of like set, we could buy all that stuff, but I was like, right here we want something kind of tense, or we want something that's kind of relief after that like tense moment, or the kind of build up or sadness, and he just like came up with original stuff in it, and that's what I like about the show is that it's all of our personalities. We really put ourselves into it, and having the mandolin be the soundtrack is such a unique thing that it gives it its own personality.
Yeah, it's very unique, and even having talked with you guys here today and kind of getting to know you, and then watching, having watched the first episode, is that I was wondering, how much, and I always wonder this when I'm watching a movie or a TV series or anything, is what are the people like in real life compared to their characters? And you guys seem very similar, very just cracking jokes, very quirky and unique.
Right.
I think just larger, exacerbations of ourselves. The characters you see. Jonathan from the beginning has always nicknamed me the sweet boy. And he's always going, you're the sweetest boy of all. I can't do your voice.
But you're really not that sweet.
But I'm not.
That's what I've sort of learned, actually.
Actually, the original girl in the call room, when things went south, I was like, well, I am the sweet boy. And as she left, she was like, you're not as sweet as everyone says you are. And I was like, ha ha. And then I thought, oh, she's kind of right.
Yeah, she was right.
Jonathan's the funny boy. Nathaniel, who plays Craig, he has always had that wonderful, like, kind of college...
fratty.
He's older than us, not you necessarily, but he looks the youngest of all of us. Which is always he very much embodies that.
I think everybody's really is based concretely in each character, each actor's own personality, because we're friends with them, except for
Sean. Yeah.
So Simon and Sean couldn't be any more different. Like Sean is like this handsome, like fantastic actor. He's a
leading man, Jimmy Stewart type.
Yeah, like just charisma and stuff. But he's very transformative. So he can like.
I love too in that the jokes, and especially when you're talking about Nathaniel Meeks. The jokes that he has in the first episode talking about Tinder, because the first episode talks about everyone's kind of, they think they're going to get fired. They think that they're going to get cut, that this is it. And what do you do when you see the edge of the cliff? And each person kind of has their own way of going about that.
Right.
You got the suck up. You got the person who might actually try to work. You got the person who's just screw it, I'm just on Tinder. And he was the one on Tinder.
Right.
And it's very current, as far as pop culture.
Yeah, I'd say it's funny because Jonathan, which we kept very true, which was very true in real life, Jonathan's numbers were always through the roof. Jonathan always had the best numbers in the room. I don't know if it's the tone of his voice.
Thank you so much.
Gosh. And
I found my true calling.
Yeah, and statistically, I had the worst numbers always. So it'd be funny because I'd sit next to him and I would say like, "What do you say?" And he's like, "Well, you just pick up the phone and
you lie.
You give me money." And then I would always felt like I was like, "Hi, this is," and he's like, "Yeah, the way you talk, you're." He's like, "You have to command." He's like, "You have to say, hey, like you need this."
This is
gotta be a salesman.
Gotta
be a salesman.
Yeah. So
that's right.
Pretty close to say most people.
But the show also, like, it is an office comedy, but I also feel like it gets really wacky, as you'll see. Like the pilot, I don't think was that wacky, but as you go, like an episode we just released today, we have these little bits at the beginning that go like last time on the call room that have nothing to do with the show, right? Nothing happened. And it gets kind of wacky. I feel like Wet Hot is kind of how I would.
Yeah, people.
associate
I
it.
haven't watched Community. I'm sorry, I'm embarrassed to say, but a lot of people compare it to like it turns into genre sometimes, or it like kind of breaks into, especially like the 5th episode becomes like jumping into a whole genre that's like Lord of the Flies, and so or reality TV. But it gets kind of insane, and I think that kind of comes back to the reality of what you were talking about post college, right? Is the reality that a lot of millennials and a lot of people like that idea of getting out of college and having a future because of your degree like disappeared 15 years ago.
Yes.
And so these are people that are underemployed, bright, but like restless and they don't really respect their job. They have to keep it.
The effort that they give maybe is not as high as obviously what it should be.
And a lot of times they're just entertaining themselves at work just to get by. And so they do the bare minimum to not lose their job, but they're kind of all their antics and all their kind of like their unique approach or ridiculous approach to challenges that the boss might throw at them is all just because they don't give a shit. Like they're just they're like caged animals. They're just kind of running around, you know?
Yeah, I'd say it hits on very much the disrespectful nature of, I'd say, the workforce of today, which is kind of like, all right, I'm here, I showed up, like, you're more interested in how many Instagram followers you have than building a successful career in something. Everyone's much more into, like, this only got so many likes, so now I'm depressed, you know.
That's because a lot of careers are built on Instagram followers.
True.
Yeah.
But
So you guys did telemarketing, and I'm gonna even ask you, Craig. Worst job, was that one of the worst jobs? Do you have any crazy stories about jobs? Have you had a situation like what we see here in the show?
I personally, no, I've never done telemarketing. I did door-to-door sales.
You haven't lived, Craig. You haven't lived.
There's nothing sadder than like walking around, you know, during my college years, like walking around, knocking on doors, trying to get people to like sign up for broadband.
And where did you do that? Where?
That was in Utah.
So at least it wasn't like crazy
Utah.
hot. I had a friend who like did that in like Atlanta, Georgia, in the summer. And he was like, it was just
humidity.
But it's still long hours. It's so long hours.
Yeah, I'd rather be broke and homeless than do that kind of work.
Yeah, I did telemarketing for one summer. I was like the guy who would also walking house to house, knocking on your door, telling you about like environmental problems and like getting you to sign up. So it was like environmental action.
How much did people hate you?
It was well, it was Colorado. They're very eco-friendly, so it wasn't like terrible.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not the greatest job. And then I think my worst job ever is I worked in Westwood, in a like kids, like little like it was for like christening outfits. They sold christening outfits, and I like had to like stock little like dresses, white dresses, and white little boy suits. It was really bizarre. Really.
I will say the one time I got fired, I worked also during college. I worked like as a waiter at Chili's, and I hated it. I should have quit like 6 months earlier, or maybe a year earlier than I did. And so I was like kind of like the Walking Dead at work. And I got called in one time for my boss, like, so he fires me. And I'm like, well, is there a problem with like my performance? He's like, no, you're great. Customers love you. Like you do your job. He's like, it's not personal. It's just your attitude. And I'm like, what's more personal than my attitude?
It's your face. I worked at Panera Bread once.
Oh, you did.
In Cleveland, Ohio. And I remember I showed up one day with a fever, and I just felt terrible. I should not have been near anyone's food. And my manager, she came up and said, like, you have to restock the ice. And I was like, okay, I'm not really sure how to do that. And I'm delirious and feverish. She's like, well, you know, you take the bucket and fill it up, and then you'd have to hoist it above your head. And I personally have a body built for reading, so I'm like trying to carry this thing, and I get up on the step ladder, and I like try to move, and it just all falls, and this ice goes all over the floor. And I'll never forget, she walked by with iced tea and just said, "You're gonna want to pick this up before customers see it." And I just thought to myself, I need to go. This can't be my life.
But I have those bread bowls.
I love the bread bowls. After the soup sat in them.
The food wasn't enough to keep the free. Did you get a discount on food though?
I think sometimes, yeah, I would just take stuff.
That's not a discount.
The best discount there is stealing.
Right.
I'm not the best
Person.
overall
You're not the best person.
employee, son, husband, father.
You guys are seeing. You guys, by the way, you're seeing that this is literally what the comedy is. You watch it and you can see the back and forth. It's so hilarious.
Helps the writing, that's for sure.
Yeah, the writing. We definitely took. That was something you had talked about before with writing. Originally, we were supposed to, once we raised the funds in October, we were going to start shooting right away. And Craig pulled us aside and said, these scripts are not ready. And for the money we just raised, these need some time. So we took 3 months, had like writer's room sessions, which I think still to this day was the most fun for us.
Yeah, for sure.
That was fun.
We snuck into the Geffen on Monday nights. It's okay; they're not going to watch this. They're not.
They're also like
they're not
supportive of the show, I feel like.
No, they're very supportive and wonderful. They just didn't want to know that we were there. But
It's always easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission.
yeah,
so
it'll be
you're
fine.
good.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
I'll always ask.
So that was like, I mean, there were so many laughs and jokes and ideas and entire scripts that got left in that room, you know, but we all have those memories, which I think is why it's so sweet. But then what you see in the episodes, everybody can kind of like share in like the experience of shooting it. But we brought in, because originally it was like Adam and I are like the co-writers like of the series, but we were like, let's do a writing staff, like a real show. And so we brought in 7 other writers. Most of them are the main cast members, 3 other people that play smaller parts. But we brought in people just to like pitch ideas and brainstorm and work through you know, the formula of each show and kind of cement it. And so those 9 people are really the force behind why the show looks and sounds like it does right now.
Yeah.
And there's no dead weight because we would all kind of point it out in each other's scripts or in each other's ideas. And so it's pretty packed.
Yeah. So like typically when you go in and talk to, you know, different, I feel like production companies or networks, and they go, well, how do you sustain this for many seasons? And you go, well, a writer's staff. Like that's exactly how you sustain it when you have 15 people each contributing another idea.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be Aaron Sorkin or Lena Dunham, but you know, God bless them because they're armies, 1-person armies.
Have you guys worked on previous shows? I mean, before this, kind of talk about what maybe helped you get to this point. Is this something that you've always wanted to do, that you saw, and it just kind of working up to that point?
Done sketches. I think a lot of sketches, shorts. Someone who actually, is the reason we're here is one of my really good friends, Beth Bears, who's the blonde on 2 Broke Girls. We had done an indie with Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro called Serial Buddies literally 7 years ago. And this just goes to show you, I mean, we were just getting out of college and, you know, take every gig and every opportunity because Beth and I went to the East Coast in Connecticut. We shot Serial Buddies. Phil, who's one of the producers here, I mean, then he came over here and then they were just starting AFTERBUZZ right when we all came back. And then Beth and I had worked on some shorts. We did this one called Office Interns. And from there, I booked another indie called Little Blue Pill. And the DP on that was Lucas Lee Graham, who we used to shoot this, who in many ways just, I think, delivered so much bang for your buck of like just the stuff we were able to do and shoot. So a lot
He
of
came up with some great ideas in terms of how to make things look unique, which you'll see more in later episodes than in the earlier ones. But like 4, 5, and 7 especially are amazing.
But it's funny. I mean, a lot of this stuff was, you know, if it had not been for 7, 8 years ago working on stuff or doing other things, you know, you're definitely not here. So take every opportunity.
Yeah, I had done a couple other web series where I was just an actor, and which were fun. But I've always wanted to like, big believer in making your own work. I mean, that's just the way you got to do it these days. Like you can't just wait around for your opportunity to come. So Adam's always been great about these way. I give him much more credit than I have for like starting projects, keeping the momentum going, you know, spearheading things. So that was great, and when he had this idea, it was easy to decide to do it.
Yeah, and I came down, like, I lived for a summer down here and taking classes at the Groundlings and then seeing some shows at UCB, and I went back up to finish a master's degree in Salt Lake City, and I was like, I'm moving down to LA, I'm going to go to UCB, I'm going to find people, and I'm going to make content. And I had this passion for, I want to write and direct television. So with that, in my 201 class, literally the second class I took, I met Adam, and like and we're now completing this project that is started 3 years ago when we met. You know, like that's kind of when the first like relationship started. Now we're actually delivering it. But yeah, that's like I'd only done shorts and sketches and like you know, kind of not narrative web series, like one-off kind of like ideas, but strung together as a series. But yeah, this is the first like real thing, and we're super proud of it. Like,
yeah, I think that's the thing too. You don't really realize how much time stuff takes. A lot of time, you know, you go like, oh, like 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. Yeah, and then you go, why does something take a year? Why do, like, a lot of times you see projects that have gone out online and then the second season is shot 4 years later. And you go, why did it take so much time? Like, oh, because you didn't have millions of dollars and, you know, you didn't have super famous people pushing it out. And even super famous people, it took like Brad Pitt 10 years to do Moneyball. Like, it doesn't, just because you have the clout doesn't necessarily mean something's going to happen overnight. So I say the coolest thing really is it, as cliche as it sounds, it really is the journey, because like these are the guys who you're hanging out with, like, and you hope that they're your friends because you're seeing them,
all the time,
18 hours a day, on sets.
Much time.
So much.
I will add this onto this. The next season we do, the turnaround time will be a fraction of what it was this time.
Much faster, yeah.
You get the process.
And it's not just that, but this first haul, we used it in each stage to try and, like, once we had the footage from having shot it, we tried to cut together a sizzle reel, and we tried to set up meetings. And so that kind of slowed down editing because we were pushing ourselves to, like, can we just get this sold right now? So that took 3 or 4 months to kind of set up meetings. We went out to New York last fall. Met with True TV, met with some other people. And that was fantastic. And we learned so much about how to represent your own project, what kind of things people are interested in or not interested in, how they want them delivered. And even after the screening, we could have released the episodes right away, but we're trying to get meetings, trying to get representation. And so, like, after this long journey of learning what to do, what not to do by trial and error, like, we've figured out now, okay, here's what we want to do and here's why. And at the end of the day, it's like, I'll kind of borrow from Rob McElhaney's his interview on WTF, where he just says, like, everyone's full of shit. Do it. Like, nobody knows how it's done.
Right.
Just do it yourself.
Nobody gets what you're saying. They have to see it.
They have to see it.
You know what I mean? Like, because we said, telemarketers. They go, so it's like Workaholics. I'm like, no, it's not really Workaholics. I'm like, Workaholics is a great show. This is a totally different flavor. It's got bits and pieces of Seinfeld in there, and a little bit of this, and
Little Always Sunny,
and but people go, so it's kind of like, it's just like The Office. I'm like, not really. Again, like, it's not
It's
like
a little Free Willy meets Die Hard.
It's like,
that's perfect. That's it.
Yeah. I think that's
Meets Ghost Dad with
meets Ghost Dad.
Ghost.
No, the original content, and you guys have kind of touched on this a little bit, but original content is king in Hollywood right now.
Yeah.
Sure. You need that, because people want big executives and big studios want people who come in not just with talent but with ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I think that's certainly what you guys have here, is that idea, and you've proven that you've gotten as far as what you've done in putting together all the episodes and everyone in writing and directing and everything, that I think that's what people want nowadays in Hollywood.
Well, they expect it because it's so accessible. I mean, like, the budgets and the technology is there to shoot any idea with your iPhone. So that's a bare minimum. You should be able to show your work always now. That's the starting level before you could pitch ideas. Like, unknown talent like ourselves are not going to be able to pitch a script.
Something that I think that hasn't changed, though, is that the writing really needs to be top notch, because now that everyone has an idea, it doesn't necessarily make it good, right? So with ease of access and ease of shooting these days, the material needs to be good. So I think we always agreed on that and focused on that, I think.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Not at all. So
Writing,
yeah, that's writing. So that stayed the same. But yeah, it's exciting.
The other thing I will say about, and this is like, if you're an indie filmmaker trying to make your first project, like, from what we've learned, it's like the lesson that came up over and over again from writing to production to post to everything is, like, don't cut corners. Do the absolute best job you can. Like, if you have an idea and you have a specific vision for it, like, fight for it.
Right.
Don't settle.
Do not settle. Like,
and we've already been talking about season 2. Like, we want to do this. We learned so much. Like, we could change this, and it's just.
Yeah, and like, case in point too. At the end, we were going through footage, and we realized we didn't really have any transitional shots. So we just had kind of the show, but we didn't have people, picking up mugs, sharpening pencils, doing stuff in the office. And as we were going through everything, again, this is indie filmmaking. We shot 80 pages in 7 days. Typically for an indie, you don't want to go above, 5 is comfortable. So we were shooting between 10 and 12 a day. But luckily we had worked on the scripts, and we had our own office building that we could use. It was a standing set. And Craig literally pulled me aside, and we're going through stuff, and he's like, whatever transition stuff we have, we don't have. It's not here. He's like, so we have to figure out a day. We have to ask everyone now to come out for free. We're out of money. And we have to figure out these transitional shots. We need an opening sequence. And Craig did one of the coolest things. I could not have imagined anything like this. And the ironic thing is most people, when they talk about our show, they love the opening sequence and they love the transition shots, and that's what we shot absolutely for free when we had nothing. My car had gotten broken into, so I was missing a window, and like my front right headlight, there was plastic over it, and it was the perfect, like, literally Craig's like, no, this is what we do. We're out in the desert. It's like a giant, bender after Vegas. Everyone's hungover. We're driving around. And then I'm like, yeah, it's the metaphor of sales. You got a car in the desert and you're going nowhere. I'm like, that's how I feel every day when I pick up that phone. And so I think that's what people are always like, wow, like that beginning sequence is so cool. And we said, that's what we shot when we were literally desperate, had nothing left, and just said,
we got to get creative.
This has to work. This has to work.
Yep.
I will say I stole that idea, and I didn't steal the idea, but I was inspired by the idea from Kids in the Hall. Do you guys got? If you watch Kids in the Hall, from the the sketch show from the early '90s, they in between sketches as like a palate cleanser, they'd show this black and white footage of them driving around their hometown of like Toronto or wherever they were from in a car, and so I was like, I like that black, because I'm like, oh, it's kind of artistic. It's a sketch show that's like really irreverent and super edgy and really funny, and then they'd have these kind of like this house band playing this music to this black and white footage of them driving around, and I was like, oh, I want to do something like that. And it's kind of, it adds, between all the wackiness in the scenes and all the comedy, it adds this kind of like calm, like philosophical, like kind of like feeling to kind of come down and get ready for the next thing. And then the music on top of it is just phenomenal.
And props to Alexa Rose, because it was windy, it was so cold, there was dust getting kicked up, and she was in a dress while we were in suits. And she had just come off, I think we did this on a Monday morning, like at 8 a.m. We all had to drive out to Bakersfield.
Lancaster.
Yeah, and she came out from like a full weekend of work. She was exhausted, and I felt so bad. I bought her lunch afterwards, but she was the trooper, because it was just miserable.
Lunch at Panera? Did you?
Yeah, exactly. The bread bowl.
I got her a bread bowl. Then I took a bucket of ice, I threw it down, and I said, "You figure it out."
Well, where do you guys go from here? Obviously, we got the first season. Several episodes will be released.
Back
one
to
a week.
telemarketing.
Is that about? Is that about it? One a week is kind of the plan for releasing these. And you already said you're talking about a season 2.
Right.
I will say this. Telemarketing enabled us to get funds. I mean, that skill set, because you brought in all the people with the big money.
His skill set.
My skill set. That was terrible.
Sales.
But like that's the thing about making your own stuff, is like it's a sales job. Like you have to pitch and you have to like sell your idea to people and ask them for money. So it's like it's very much telemarketing prepared us for creating the show. But sorry, I digression.
Yeah, one person in particular, our associate producer who we brought on board, was someone who I had pitched when I was telemarketing at the Geffen. His name is Brett Malatsky. I had talked to him. He gave me one of those runaround. He's like, yeah, I have to talk to my girlfriend. Can I call you next week? I said, yeah, sure. You're going to talk to your girlfriend. I'm like, I've heard this before. And then he called up next week and became an opening night donor at the Geffen, which was awesome. And then he kept coming up to the bar, because I bartend there most nights. And over the course of a couple months, he said, hey, like, are you working on anything? Like, what are you doing? You seem funny. I'm like, well, I got this show, The Call Room, and we need $1,000 to screen this at Sony. And he's like, I'll do it. And I said, sweet. What else do you have? So I think the goal is to really establish a strong base, get enough people to watch the show, like it, because we're going to have to definitely raise, I think, a lot more for season 2.
Yeah. Episodes every Wednesday till they're out.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think our goal is what we learned through that long process of pitching and trying to get the idea sold and somebody to pick it up was, don't count on that. Keep moving forward, and then somebody will find you. Like, either an agent or a manager or somebody will find you.
Right.
But we're going to move forward with the idea of like, we're not going to get any help. We're going to have to fund this ourselves.
People want to jump on a moving train. They don't want to start the train.
Yeah.
Ooh,
You like that?
I like that.
Anyhow,
like that.
What's that from? That's what.
I think I got that from you. I'm not kidding.
No, it's people want to jump on a runaway train. No one wants to start your car. Something like that. It's
I think mine was more apt.
Well,
Do you guys share the same peel-off calendar with motivational quotes in the
I think we might.
Was that
I
what you
actually
saw?
heard that first from you. I'm not
Was it
kidding.
really? I think I read that like something online.
No, I think you got it from a conversation we had. So yeah, we want to make season 2. Our goal of the next like 6 to 8 months is just to get subscribers, likes on our Facebook page, viewers, to get an audience and a base up that we can go to help fund season 2, but also to show to private investors the success of the show. So we can go to back to our Brett Malotskis and our Steven Shapiros and their friends and say, hey, we need
People
this
with
much
really
money.
cool last names.
I know.
Malotsky.
I guess that's a shortcut to funders is look for a cool last name. The money will be there.
It will. Exactly. I also want to give a shout out. I don't think we've mentioned him specifically yet, but our executive producer, Nick Schaefer, who's absolutely fantastic and who...
He's a mover and Schaefer.
He's the mover and...
Oh, boy.
We just found out, actually, shout out
See
to him.
yourself out
They're pregnant. He's gonna be a papa coming up in the spring.
Awesome.
So
You don't hear that much in LA.
much.
People aren't having kids here.
Yeah, but he was one of the guys originally who
Produced the original pilot.
Produced the original
the
pilot.
series.
Has their like just mover and shaker. He's with Capital Gain Productions. They do a lot of stuff in LA and just one of the few guys who he's always there. I say that's really what I've taken away is that you have to have this awesome team who shows up because you cannot do it by yourself.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Indeed.
We're hoping to write the show and probably do like a fundraising campaign probably next spring.
Oh, fantastic. Well, before we head out, once again, tell people where they can kind of reach you guys, where they can follow you guys, follow this journey, and certainly enjoy the content.
Sure. Check us out on Facebook, VidMe, and YouTube at Call Room Series. You can check us out even if you just YouTube or Google search the Call Room. Any questions, comments, want to get in touch with us, callroomseries@gmail.com.
The website is callroomseries.com.
Callroomseries.com. Yeah, I mean, please, like, share. We're definitely excited to let everyone see what we're working on.
There we go. One more time, your socials. Look into the camera.
Hey, I'm Craig Tovey, at Craig Tovey.
Hi, I'm Adam Carr at AdamCarr85 and FunnyGuy1985 on Instagram.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Schwartz, and you can follow me at Schwartz Retorts.
And I've been your host, Michael Clouse. You can follow me on Twitter at Michael Clouse TV, on Instagram at The Only MC. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in. Seriously, look these guys up. They are hilarious. The show is fantastic. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.